think we're good. If there was anything you wanted to change.
Did you ask about the deer? Yeah, well, there was a CGI deer that did not look great. I will say, as much as we all agreed that that deer was not, 100% up to snuff, it is fairly inhumane to have a real deer on set and, keep them in a cage and make them stand on the grass and do whatever. And so we've been, with Shiva and the deer trying to use CGI animals in order to, not be cruel to animals. And so as much as that deer looked like crap, it was for a good cause. So I think we deserve a round of applause for that. Yeah. And we've been getting sick animals from all the animal wranglers in Atlanta and eating them for lunch on certain days. No, I'm just kidding. That's not funny. What are you doing, Robert? People are watching you. Stop talking.
And it's recorded. And it's recorded.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
The actors in those scenes were all great, so it worked out.
Yes, definitely.
Do we have another question? I think we have one right over there.
We got a really great looking Pegasus coming up in the last half of season 8. So it's gonna be
do children that are born after people started turning, do they have the virus or whatever? And because I haven't seen any children that have been born turn, so I'm wondering, do they just have to outlast this, and is there hope for them in the future?
Be a real good reason to kill Judith, wouldn't it? just to get that out once and for all. I'm going to choose not to answer that until we kill Judith.
Okay, do we have a mic over here? Oh yeah, great. We'll start here because I saw your hand. I will move. We have time. I promise.
I promise I won't answer the questions too long.
So I have a question for Robert in the aspect of if you could take any character that is either in the TV show or in the game and put it into your comics, like rewrite your comics, what would that character be and why?
Oh, well, Daryl Dixon, because he's so popular, it would help sales.
It's an easy one.
Yeah. But, and Clementine's cool too, but she is not as popular as Daryl Dixon. I mean, you guys have been on this boat for like at least 5 minutes, so you know the popularity of Mr. Daryl Dixon. But that said, I'll never do it just because it's really important to me that, the comics and the video games and the shows, I've said this a lot, I apologize for people that hear me repeat myself. I like that they have unique elements. I like that you can only get Clementine from the video game, you can only get Daryl from the show. There are things that you can only get in the comic, and I think that makes for a healthy overall ecosystem for The Walking Dead. That there are different unique things that you can get from each one. It makes them all special.
Thank you. And I know somebody had a question right over there, so you're next.
Is there going to be an end game to the Walking Dead universe, whether a comic book or a television show? Will you explain how the show will end?
Would you like me to do that now?
Because I have in mind how the show will eventually end.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's day 4 on the boat. Is it day 4 on the boat? Day 3?
It's day 4. I think.
It's day 4? Yeah, I'm loopy. I'll tell you everything. But no, I definitely do have an end game. But every time I mention that, websites run with that and make it sound like it's like very soon, and they get clickbait articles out of it. So I have to say that even though I do know what the end is and I am working toward it, it is very far off, and it's not something that's going to be happening anytime soon. So there's no cause for worry. What I'm doing for a good long time. So yeah, but I do know exactly what I'm working toward, which is important to me. And I haven't told Charlie Adler, because he'd be like, why hasn't it happened yet? Why are you changing your mind?
I will tack onto that one a little bit and ask about how far out you plan the story arcs, because obviously I know you have to have New World Order figured out, but how much further do you have at least scripts, or like I said, I know not some of the Charlie, but just you internally, like how many issues out do you plan?
Yeah, we're usually working 3 or 4 or 5 issues ahead of what's in stores. So I think we're 175 is out. We're working on either 180 or 181 right now. So we're many months ahead production wise. Story wise, I don't write scripts too far ahead of when Charlie needs them because I'm lazy. Like I'm writing 181 when Charlie's drawing 180, and that gives me leeway to, if I want to change my mind or throw something else in there, that's cool. But I always have a pretty dense roadmap of where I'm going for at least 50 issues. And I have a less dense roadmap for beyond that. So I have like large, benchmarks that I'm working toward, and I have very small, more well-defined benchmarks that I'm, hitting as I go. And but it's important to me to let inspiration run wild. And so every now and then I'll just say, okay, well, what was going to be 182? I'm now moving back to 196, and I'm putting this new chunk in here. And I can still pull some stuff from there and move it up, but the main thing will move back, and I'll put new material in there. And that just makes the overall series longer, which is good, I guess. And so that's why I can't really say like, oh, it's going to go for 10 more years or 15 more years. It's all very malleable. But yeah, I mean, I feel like to tell a story that's been going now for 15 years and hopefully remains entertaining and remains engaging and surprising and has twists and turns that still shock you and keep you invested. You have to know where those turns are, and you have to be building to them for many, many years. I think if I was just flailing about coming up with stuff on the fly, the book would, you'd kind of be able to tell. So
that makes sense. And then, obviously your schedule is completely different than it was when you first started writing the comic book series. How has, not only, how do you work on managing that schedule between working on a TV show and the comic book series, but how has your work on the TV show maybe improved your writing process?
Yeah, well, I think working in the writer's room and actually, getting to know writers that know how to write and watching them do things and be like, oh, that's how you do that. So I'm a self-taught hack. So I definitely think that the comic book has been improved by certain, like fundamental writing things that I've learned from working with other writers that I didn't know from, not going to college and not paying attention in high school. And so I think that that's been important. Talking to actors, seeing how they read scenes and how they interpret scenes helps me figure out how readers read scenes and interpret scenes, which kind of helps with dialogue to a certain extent. And I think that, it's, like hearing dialogue spoken out loud when you write on the show, I think actually helps you get a better ear for it. So I think that's helped. But who knows? The comic could be worse since the show happened. I'm not really the judge of that. But I feel like it's improved, and I feel a little bit more confident about the work.
We can take another question from the audience. You had your hand up first, so with you, what's your name? Where are you from? And what's your question?
I'm JR from Norman, Oklahoma. Even though Walking Dead is very dear to my heart, probably my first love is Invincible. Is there any plans or interest in making that into a TV show or a movie?
The last issue, 144, comes out on, I believe, Valentine's Day, so that series is wrapping up, and I'm very tired. But yeah, we're actually, we made a deal with Universal, and we're working with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg on a feature film. And so I've been working with them a lot, going over the story outline and their plans for the movie, and things are progressing nicely. And so I'm hoping that we'll have some, concrete news on that very soon. But it's looking good for an Invincible movie, so I'm very excited.
I saw we can do an ad.
Sure, yeah. Walking Dead traitors.
I saw a hand go up somewhere here in the middle, so let's see if we can get a mic over there.
Pass it down like a hot dog. Do that at stadiums.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm originally from New York, but I live in Florida now. And my question to you is the direction of Morgan going over to Fear. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's going to work out?
Yeah.
Is there going to be like a time jump, or
well,
how is
the
that
options are that Fear would need to experience a time jump so that Morgan could leave Walking Dead and go to Fear without there being a paradox, or there's not a time jump, and the Morgan that we see in Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 is Morgan in between the Clear episode and him coming back into the show. So it's going to have to be one of those two things. We haven't said which one it is, I think it's the one you prefer, but we'll see. You know, some people online have figured it out. But you know, Fear, I think they've announced this. I'll go out on a limb, but Fear season 4 is actually going to premiere the night of the end of season 8. So it's going to be a big event with both shows kind of existing on the same night. So you'll get all the answers you need there.
And one more question.
Sure.
Does anyone
Make it difficult.
Does anyone on The Walking Dead have immunity to this apocalypse?
No, that would be terrible. That's not a storyline I like.
So I wanted to kick it back to you and talk a little bit about Negan. Obviously, Negan's a fan favorite now. We see people dressing up as Negan. We see people quoting Negan, but Negan was not necessarily a sure thing when you first created him, and maybe there was a lot of backlash over obviously what happened with Glenn. You know, and also you created a great nemesis with the governor and the prison storyline. I mean, it's an all-time great storyline. And so it's tough for writers to be able, in some cases, to top themselves. You absolutely did. But I would love to hear you talk a little bit about what was in your head when trying to create this character, trying to develop him, and trying to come up with something that wasn't the governor.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in some ways, the governor was a lunatic. You know, he was like a bad dude. He was real, you know, dangerous. Negan can be reasoned with, and that was something that was really important to me. The whole goal with Negan was, in issue 100, to introduce a character that was, you know, completely psychotic, completely out of the blue, very strange, very jarring, something that we had never really encountered in the book before. His dialogue was ridiculous, his behavior was bizarre. And yet, I wanted him to be a well-rounded human being that had motives that made sense and, you know, was like a real person to a certain extent. Because the idea was, if you had been reading The Walking Dead and it had been about Negan from issue 1, when you read issue 100, you'd be like, oh, that Rick guy's a lunatic. Like, these guys are crazy. Like, what's going on? Like, you would have been on Negan's side. And so, you know, I wanted to, you know, introduce Negan in a way that, you know, really was jarring, but then slowly peel back more and more layers and show how he's compassionate towards certain people, and he has very strange rules, and he, you know, will do some things and won't do other things, and, you know, it was important that there was a humanity to him, and I think that that's what makes for a good villain.
And, you know, I think it's funny because we were at Comic-Con years back when 100 dropped. We had talked about it, and like I said, I can just remember people being like, oh, you killed Glenn, I'm never going to read the comic book again. And like, this is senseless violence. And you realize in the comic book series, I mean, you kind of earn these moments, or there's a reason for them. And so you see that, you know, you have this terrible death in issue 100, but you're afraid of Lucille every issue after. Yeah. You see Negan walking around, and you're like, who's next?
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. I mean, I said a lot at the time, and I've said it many times since. I feel like the more beloved the character is, like the more horrendous the death should be. You know, Andrea didn't really follow that, but you know, her death was, I think, more emotional because of her importance. But you know, I think that I don't know. There's just something to the fact that, you know, you love Glenn so much. That's the absolute last thing you would ever want to see. And if you can put that on a character and know that that character is capable of that, and know that, you know, if you loved Glenn as much as you loved him, and you love all these other characters just as much, and you know that any of them could go at any time, like, it makes for a really intense read, which is, you know, the goal. As much as it really pisses people off, like, you know. But our you know, sales went up on the comic after that, so I was like, all right.
Keep killing them. Let's take another question from you. I see hands up there going, signaling. Can we get a mic over there? You win for that one.
Oh God, I've got a question.
It was like an SOS. We're getting the mic over to you.
Thanks very much. My name's Gary, I'm from England. And
I had no idea.
Yeah, and I don't know the Queen. We got The Walking Dead in America, Fear the Walking Dead in America, and in Mexico. Any designs in taking it across the water to us in England, maybe Europe? Get out there a bit further?
Yeah, we did a one shot that Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin did that took place in France. No, Spain. Took place in Spain. I don't know these European countries. Anyway, that's the only time that we've ever delved anywhere overseas. But, you know, while there are no plans now, I could see there being some kind of, you know, international Walking Dead something at some point. But, like I say, there's no plans now.
That sounds good. I hope you do. Hope you do. And I do have one other silly question. It's Maggie. Seems to be, she's been pregnant for a very long time.
Yeah?
When's she going to start showing?
She'll start showing when people start showing, when she's been pregnant for like 80 months. That's how pregnancy works, right? I don't do a lot of research, but
okay.
But no, I mean, it was time doesn't really, you know, move. It moves linearly, but it doesn't move in clips that can be tracked. So if Maggie isn't showing, she, you know, you may have seen that she's been pregnant for, you know, 2 seasons, but those 2 seasons could take place over 2 months, despite Chandler Riggs's continued aging. But there's got to be some suspension of disbelief.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I saw, we're almost going by speed here. I saw this hand first. Let's get a mic over here. And I'm sorry, I'm making this poor guy just run back and forth. Next time I'm going to send you over there. Yeah,
Faster. Faster. That's why there's been 40 Judiths on the show.
Hi, I had a question. My name's Sherry and I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. Would you ever consider doing a Negan origin mini-story? Mini-series?
Actually have. There's a hardcover called Here's Negan. That's a 64-page story that's a little bit like the Governor novel that I did, or a series of novels. But this is a much more concise comic book that's actually drawn by Charlie Adlard. It came out in October, and it's entirely possible we may be doing something with it in show form, so feel free to check that out. But it gives a lot more insight into, what are people yelling at?
They said it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, keep yelling, that's fine. I was going to scold you, but compliments are totally cool. But yeah, so, you know, it's awesome. You should get it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that a hand back there? You win for first hand. Pretty soon people are going to be just like signaling me from over here.
It's great when I get a question that I can like answer positively. Like, that thing you want. Ready and waiting
We
for
got it.
Totally awesome. As
Yeah,
opposed
she did
to,
it for me,
I
dude.
can't send you. Right?
Thanks, guys. Hey, Robert Kirkman. Personally, thank you for succeeding at what I almost failed high school for doing. Just writing comic books and stuff. Awesome job.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, but I know you and Greg Nicotero, you know, he's such an amazing person too. I'm sure you guys have conflicting ideas.
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of answered my question. I was going to ask you,
No, go ahead.
how it is working with them and kind of exchanging ideas on something that you already wrote.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, working with Greg is a real honor. I mean, you know, Greg was part of the Make Effects team on Day of the Dead and, you know, did Land of the Dead and has done, you know, some of the best zombies that anyone's ever seen before or since Walking Dead. And, you know, it's just an absolutely amazing talent. I mean, his team at K&B, you know, was a big part of, you know, Walking Dead happening. You know, there was, can't really get into it, but, you know, there was you know, there were some competing teams that wanted to make Walking Dead, and Greg's presence on this team was a very big deciding factor. Like, I really wanted to work with Greg Nicotero. And, you know, I couldn't be more thrilled with, you know, how he has evolved the zombies from season to season and the different innovations that he's, you know, brought into it. From year to year, and you know, the truth of the matter is, if you read the comics, ain't a lot of zombies these days, and so you know, to have him on the show, like, you know, still pushing to break ground with zombies in a way that I gave up on in the comic a long time ago, is very important, and so I think that he's you know, absolutely a central part of the Walking Dead team.